Nice. We are up and running. Fantastic. Love it. Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen to the 12th of May 2021 Carter's Corner Daily. I really do need to get an update for the background icon. Carter's Corner Daily. I think that would look lovely. So today's show is, again, we're going to have a look at the press releases from the WA government. We've also had a request to react to a video that's been sent through to us. I saw the title and opening scene. So it's the South African gun shooting on a armoured truck. Apparently the driver is absolutely super chilled. I haven't seen it, so we'll go have a look. The Patreons also asked me if I can have a chat to people about, is Australia going this way? Is Australia going to get that bad? Don't know. We'll have a look and we'll see, because there might be something going on that more than what I'm aware of. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have actually got quite a few press releases. So make sure you've got yourself a coffee. I think I really need to get a sponsorship from Icona. Coffee is the nectar of the gods. So let's get straight into this. The first press release, I'm going to pull it up now. I'm getting better with OB Studios, but I'm still kind of new to it. Okay, so we have a joint press release from the Honourable Rita Saffioti, the Honourable Tony Booty, MLA. And there's another press release that's come through just then. And the Honourable Amber Jade Sanderson, MLA, Minister for Environment. Just bear with me for a moment while I go turn a couple of these other things off. That's good, and that should be awesome. Okay, so McGowan government to permanently protect Belia wetlands. Okay, so that's down near Coburn. McGowan government to introduce a metropolitan region scheme, Belia Wetlands Bill 2021. Legislation to rezone wetlands as parks and recreation reserve, stopping future road development. So this seems to be a direct attack on Row 8. Scheme amendments strengthens A-class status and protects wetlands. Builds on 3 million election commitment to deliver boardwalk, viewing platform and additional revegetation works at Belia wetlands. Transport and Planning Minister Rita Saffioti will reintroduce legislation to State Parliament today to amend the Metropolitan Regional Scheme to rezone the Belia wetlands. During its first term, the government, during the first term of government, the McGowan government listened to the community and stopped the Liberal Party's flawed Perth Freight Link, aka Row 8, from proceeding and destroying the wetlands. In May 2020, the McGowan government, you guys can't see this, I'll scroll down a bit. Where are we? In May 2020, the McGowan government delivered its commitment to protect the wetlands, turning it into an A-class conservation reserve, giving it the highest level of environmental protection. Funding set aside for the flawed Perth Freight Link was delivered to other major job-creating, congestion-busting road and rail projects, many of which are completed or underway. So they're talking about their commitment to the Metronet. So we did one yesterday about the Metronet, how they finally finished one of the other sections, and then they're bringing in the Perth Airport into the Metronet, which I think should have been done a very, very, very long time ago. Funding set aside, already done that one. The Metropolitan Region Scheme, Belia Wetlands Bill 2021 will rezone approximately 34 hectares from a primary regional road reserve into a park and recreation reserve. Now, my understanding, the area that they're putting this on already has power lines and a whole heap of other stuff on it. It's Road 8 was always meant to be a military road so let's say Australia gets attacked and we need to get ships from the Fremantle Wharf to where, tanks, troops, whatever, we need to unload a ship extremely fast to get from the wharf out of Perth or wherever they need to go really, really quickly. So Road 8 is sort of like a ring road all around Perth. It goes all the way up to, I think it's Reed Highway and back across to the coast, and then comes back down the coast road. So what they've done effectively, they've removed a very, very important freight road, a road that is designed to get trucks and transport machinery out of Perth as fast as possible. What they want to do as a counter to Fremantle Harbour, instead of having it as a commercial harbour, they want to turn it into just a touristy sort of thing. You won't have big ships going through, you'll have like cruise ships and things like that coming out of Fremantle, and they want to take everything that Fremantle is doing and taking it down to the Kwinana Outer Harbour. So the thing that I'm noticing that this press release isn't talking about is the environmental impact of the Kwinana Outer Harbour. That's one thing I've noticed with the Labor government. They're really, 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 really good at ignoring the things they don't want to talk about. All right, so let's move on. Legislation is a mechanism reserved for planning matters of state or regional significance and will ensure that this area is protected from development forever. Well, not really, because if you can change this bill, they can change other bills. And so it's just until Labor loses majority in the thing, and then the Liberals will come through and just change it again. They do it all the time. With a location for the new container port now confirmed, Kwinana, there we go. I love how they say it's now confirmed. As far as I know, it still hasn't passed EPA, so Environmental Protection Agency's regulations. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. Amazing how at the moment Mark McGowan's got both the upper house and the lower house. All these bills he couldn't get through before because they were bad are now being put through without challenge. So thanks, Liberal Party. If you hadn't been in opposition, this may not have happened. Work is well underway for planning for our primary east-west freight corridor along Anketel and Thomas roads. Well, that's actually going to come pretty close to my place, so that'll be interesting to see what happens there. So I'll keep a very, very eager eye on this one. Legislation to change the zoning of the land was passed by the Legislative Assembly, but was not supported by the Legislative Council. So this is a really, really good example why it's a very, very bad thing to have a government with a majority in both the lower house and the upper house. And this is why it's really important to vote minor in the upper house. So what happens is the lower house creates the laws and the upper house audits laws, make sure they're good, make sure they're bad, make sure they're not going to destroy people's lives. So that is what happened in this situation. Now McGowan has a majority in the upper house as well. Once this goes up, it will pass the lower house immediately, and then it will pass the upper house immediately without debate. Comment attributed by the Transport and Planning Minister, Rita Saffioti. We went to the 2017 election with a comprehensive plan for freight and trade for Western Australia. Good to see they missed the quotation marks. We are implementing this plan, including planning for a new port in Kwinana, moving more freight onto rail, and not proceeding with the flawed Perth Freight Link plan. Again, quotation marks. As a result, we can move to preserve the Belia wetlands for future generations. Quotation marks. We introduced legislation in the last Parliament which passed the Legislative Assembly. Quotation marks. Now we have been returned to government again with the mandate to pass this important legislation, and we are getting on with the job again. Anyway, with this bill, we are finishing the job and delivering on our commitment to protect the Belia wetlands for future generations. So for the people who don't know much about the Belia wetlands, like I said, there's a big set of power lines running through there. It's already been zoned for roads and infrastructure. My understanding is 2% of the wetlands was actually going to be affected by the transport link. To counter that 2%, apparently there was a national park was extended further north, which actually did have environmental importance. But anyway, so that's for another video. There was I think it was the Maritime Union put together a really, really, really good ebook that you can flick through, and it breaks down all of this Kwinana Harbour versus Row 8 and what's going on, the personal links between the people who are fighting Row 8 and the people who are actually planning the Kwinana Outer Harbour. There's just so much dodge in there, it's not funny. So that would be a whole entire video on its own. So anyway, moving on. Comments from the Lands Minister, Tony Buttigieg. He's actually my Member of Parliament. In recent times, we have seen a renewed appreciation for accessible bushlands for hiking, running and simply enjoying nature. Once again, we heard from the Western Australian community at the recent election how much they valued these important wetlands and want to protect them from future development. Okay, so let's look at that comment there. We heard from the Western Australian community at the recent election how much they value these important wetlands. No. What the people voted for at the last election was Mark McGowan. He's kept us safe. Mark McGowan's kept us safe. This was not anywhere near that election. I did not see one politician, and I live in this guy's electorate, so at no point did he ever advertise that this election is going to be about the Beeliar wetlands. No, it was always about Mark McGowan keeping them safe. Every single poster from Labor was always Mark McGowan, Mark McGowan, Mark McGowan. So people voted for Mark McGowan. I've got a lot of family up in the Geraldton area. I was talking to them. Even the candidates in the Geraldton area all their slogans was vote for Mark. So apparently a heap of people were going to the polling booth saying, oh, we're voting for Mark, even though Mark's in Rockingham, they're in Geraldton. Mark's got nothing to do with it. But anyway, so this comment, it just shows how much of a bit of a twat that Tony Buttigieg is. Anyway, moving on. We have listened and are introducing legislation to rezone the land so it can no longer be used to construct a useless road. I'm glad you feel it's useless, but you obviously don't live in the Melville area and don't have to deal with South Street. I have in the past, and it is terrible. Unfortunately, there's a lot of schools along that road, and there's a lot of kids walking along it, and I'm just waiting for the day that a child gets run over. Let's see, construct a useless road and must instead be retained for parks and recreational purposes. So again, this is just another example of Labor destroying the economy and people's lives just to save a bit of bush. Now, don't get me wrong, I am pro-environment. I actually hate wearing shoes. I enjoy walking through no shoes. There's just something nice about walking on grass with bare feet. It just feels great. And that's why I love my grass so much. But the environmental impact that they're talking about is minuscule. It is absolutely tiny. The construction of the so-called train lines and the zones, the east-west link that they're talking about, has more environmental impact than what Row 8 was going to have. Let's have a look. Comments attributed to Environment Minister Amber Jade Sanderson. The Beeliar wetlands are a beautiful part of WA, and we want to make sure they can be enjoyed by the community for many years to come. The question is, Query Wetlands down in Mandurah. If these wetlands are so important, why were the construction of the Query Wetlands in the Mandurah region authorised to build canals? They were some absolutely beautiful wetlands. The crabbing, fishing, the amount of dolphins went through that area was phenomenal. But anyway, we've already granted the wetlands the highest level of environmental protection available by turning it into an A-class conservative reserve. This bill strengthens that protection and ensures the fragile ecosystem is safeguarded from future development. This builds on our key election commitment to contribute $3 million to develop a new boardwalk, viewing platform and additional revegetation works out the wetlands. So the revegetation works is probably where the bulldozers had started the construction of the Row 8. So not too impressed with it. I think there's a lot left out of this press release. I think there's an amazing amount left out, actually. I would have liked to have seen a link to the environmental protection assessment of the area as to why this was such an important wetlands. What I'd also like to compare is the EPA report for this versus the EPA report from the Kwinana Outer Harbour. the EPA report that I read for the Outer Harbour actually had 17 environmental impacts, and I think about half of them were considered high risk. That's where they can't tell whether the damage will stay within the region or whether the environmental impact will extend further beyond the local region. So this press release, kind of disappointed at the lack of information in it. It was a very, very one-sided discussion, obviously. Not too impressed, to be honest with you, on that one. So what I'm going to go to now, there's another one from Rita, the Honourable Rita Saffioti. So just bear with me for a moment while I pull this one up. There it is. Get rid of that so I can see better. Give us a bit of zoom. Beautiful. Okay, flight frequency back to pre-COVID levels on some regional routes. Okay, so that's kind of good. We need the flights into regional areas. It really helps with the tourism. Let's have a look here. New increased service level agreements between the McGowan government and Rex. I actually don't know who Rex is. Further increases services on key regional air routes. I'm wondering if that's more to make sure the mining industry is serviced properly so they can get their workers in and out in a timely fashion. I'll have to find out who Rex is. Some regional routes have now returned to pre-COVID service levels. Rex providing 18 return services per week on Perth, Esperance and Perth Albany routes. So they're southern routes. Esperance got quite a bit of farming and mining out that way. I'm pretty sure there's a tin and a nickel mine out there. Albany is just an absolutely stunning place, full stop. If you ever get a chance, please head down there for a holiday. For the people over east or overseas, if you do plan to get into Australia again in the next 10 years, make sure you seriously go down, have a look at Albany. It's a natural harbour, so it's extremely deep. It's just absolutely stunning. It's on the south coast of Western Australia. Just gorgeous. I can't say enough about it. Let's see. Rex commits to 6 weekly flights between Monkey Mia and Perth, and 10 return flights between Carnarvon and Perth. McGowan government committed to delivering affordable and accessible regional airfares. So this is the one that I'm going to be really, really, really curious about. I know a few people who are involved in the aviation industry, and they think with what's going on with the border shutdowns, the international border closures and all that sort of stuff has been a direct attack at the aviation airlines, and they're seriously concerned that airlines like Virgin will no longer exist in Australia in 5 years' time, just because flights are going to get so expensive. It'll be very, very tough for them to maintain service levels, staffing, especially with the Australian labour rates. Australia labour rates are extremely expensive, and that probably also explains why Qantas's boss, Alan Joyce, preempted a lot of this, sacked 3,000 workers and sent them all to China where labour costs are way, way, way cheaper. So the question is, did Alan Joyce get pre-notice about the COVID lockdowns and he was aware of how bad the business was going to be affected? All right, moving on. A new agreement between the McGowan government and regional airlines Rex, so it must be an airline, I thought it might have been an industry or something, had seen regional flights from Perth to Monkey Mia, Perth to Esperance return pre-COVID levels. Yep. Rex has committed to providing at least 18 flights from Perth each week on its Albany Esperance route, 6 return flights on the Monkey Mia route, and 10 flights on the Carnarvon route under its existing deed of agreement with the state. So it'll be interesting to see the details of this deed of agreement. I wonder how much assistance the government is actually giving them to help with these extra flights. This represents 100% recovery on the Esperance and Monkey Mia routes, 83% recovery on the Carnarvon, and 73% recovery on the Albany compared to pre-COVID levels. So that's a really, really, really good sign that we are recovering. Hopefully that's going to bring some tourism dollars to those local areas and will really help out the local businesses. So I'm actually quite happy with this. During the height of COVID, there were only 4 services per week to Albany and Esperance and 2 per week to Carnarvon and Monkey Mia. Rex's community fares for $138 to Esperance, $139 to Albany, $158 Monkey Mia, and $199 to Carnarvon continue to be available on all flights for all travellers. So you know what? That's probably less than what the cost of the fuel to get to some of these places from Perth is. Albany, no, not really, because it's only about, I think it's about 400, 500 kilometres. But Esperance, yeah, that's actually really cheap for fuel. Monkey Mia is a long drive, and you're saving hours. Rex has also invested heavily in rebuilding passenger numbers on the regional Australia air routes by making more community fares available and operating more services above the minimum service levels being supported by the government. The McGowan government is committed to delivering affordable and accessible regional airfares and is working to introduce a key election commitment by capping airfares at 2 zones. I'm not really sure about that. Okay. So Transport Minister Rita Saffioti, West Australia is a beautiful state and we want to encourage people to travel to see friends and family and to take holidays. To do this, we need to make sure that they have the right level of regional flights available. Throughout COVID, the McGowan government has worked closely with airlines and the Commonwealth government to ensure the regional communities remain connected with reliable air services. This new agreement with Rex puts the Perth to Monkey Mia and Perth to Esperance routes back on the same level of service they were pre-COVID. Carnarvon and Albany flights are also showing a positive level of return out to 83% and 78% respectively. We are continuing to work hard to deliver affordable and accessible regional airfares, including working to roll out our key election commitment to cap regional fares at 2 zones. So my guess, and this is purely guess, so please don't quote me on this one, about the 2 zones things. So every time you cross a zone, it costs you more money. So let's just go back to these costs. Yeah, so for Albany and Esperance to be that cheap, Monkey Mia and Carnarvon, I'd say they're just like, that's 1 zone to Monkey Mia in the northern side, that'd be 2 zones. Esperance and Albany, I think that would just be both classed as 1 zone. So if you, let's say you were flying to Karratha, which is all the way right up the top. So I'd assume, capping it at 2 zones, I'd say that would still only be $199 to fly, or like they'll cap the cost of it. So yeah, but you'd have to check that one. Don't quote me on it. I don't know much about it. So yeah, doing this, capping the flights, I think is a really good thing. I just would have liked to have known how much this cost the government. I would have liked to see if there is a costing, because I've probably got to give subsidies to Rex. They're probably receiving tax incentives, lower fuel costs, and potentially also reduction in... Can they get reduction in tax, or is that a federal thing? They were saying they were working with the Commonwealth government, so there's a good chance that they might be getting lower tax rates federally to be able to afford the staffing and the fuel to put these extra flights on, because I highly doubt these flights are packed. But yeah, no, it's, that's actually really good. So Rita, well done. I'm going to give you 8 out of 10 for that one. I just would have liked to have seen some more information in regards to how much it costs the government to do this. So very, very good, that one. I quite liked it. Well, even more media things are coming through. Water Minister Fisheries, Education, Training, so Hillary. There's an interesting one here, because I don't want this to be like a 10-hour video. So I'm going to skip a few of the smaller ones, and I'm going to pull up a WorkSafe press release that's just come through. Where are you? Public Health Act. Where are you? Is it this one? Yep. There it is. Okay, so let's pull you up. I find it amazing they do these press releases in Word documents, because you can just turn them into editable documents and change whatever's in there. So, building company fined $175,000 over death of a worker. Oh, here we go. Grand Designs. Boom. Building company Grand Designs WA Pty Limited has been fined a total of $175,000 over the 2017 death of a construction worker in the southwest town of Yarloop. The company pleaded guilty in the Bunbury Magistrates Courts yesterday to 5 charges, the most serious of which was failing to provide and maintain a safe workplace, and by that failure causing the death of a worker. On this charge, the company was fined $150,000. Interesting. I wonder if this will take into account the industrial relations manslaughter charges for death in the workplace, or was that not cleared fast enough? Other charges against Grand Designs involve workers not wearing safety helmets, not having a safety management plan, not having a safe work method statement on site, and workers not holding high-risk work licenses. On these charges, the company was handed a global fine of $25,000. Magistrate Coleman pointed out that the original fines totaled $230,000 before she discounted the amount due to the mitigating circumstances. I'd like to know what those mitigating circumstances are. In March 2017, Grand Design commenced building a house in Yarloop for imported precast. Oh wow. Aerated concrete panels that had arrived in an open-top sea container from which they would be craned into position in a prescribed sequence. In the course of the moving of the concrete panels, the panels weighing between 750 kilos to 1.1 tonne and containing a glass sliding door and sliding windows were removed from the sea container by the crane. It was not the next panel needed in the construction sequence and was stored out of the way temporarily by leaning it up against a row of 5 trees. Oh, wow. Oh, guys. The chains with which the panel was attached to the crane had been removed, but the panel had not been secured to the tree stump, and it fell on the worker who had been guiding it into the glass, inflicting fatal injuries. WorkSafe Commissioner Darren Kavanagh said today that the case was a tragic example of several factors conspiring to result in a terrible outcome. That's a bit of an understatement. This company neglected its duty of care, not properly identifying and assessing potential hazards or taking steps to reduce or eliminate the risk, accumulating in the sad death of a young worker. A safe work method statement had been complied, but it was not taken to the work site, and it did not include the safety measures associated with working with precast concrete panels, the equipment to be used, and so on, which made it pretty useless for this job. Now, for those who don't know precast panels, they in a factory somewhere, they'll put out molds and they'll actually pour concrete into cast on the ground, and these molds will be entire wall sections. So you know how you'll be driving down the road and they'll be building a new building, and then you drive the next day and there's a 100% completed petrol station there? A lot of those are precast concrete slabs. So the whole entire wall has the reinforcement in there, the windows, the doors, everything already cast into the concrete. They just truck it to site, stand it up, put some bolts in it, and off you go. Problem is they're extremely heavy, so if one of those drops on you, you've got no hope. Like, you're done. On this job, there was a serious lack of safety systems, highlighted by the lack of helmets being worn on the site that day, despite the obvious risk. Helmets seriously will save lives, guys. Just put them on. As uncomfortable as they are, just wear them. In addition, Grand Designs did not have an occupational health and safety management plan available for inspection by the contractors during construction work at the site. Finally, workers on the site were performing high-risk rigging and dogging work without holding high-risk work license, and this was enabled by the company. The tilt-up panel that was leaned against the tree stump should have been safely laid flat to be retrieved when the building sequence required it. This company failed to ensure the basic safety systems were in place, and it led to a young man sadly losing his life. So I hope others will learn from this case and ensure workers are protected from any hazards in the workplace. Tilt-up panel construction is a particularly hazard undertaking that should only be performed strictly in accordance with the regulatory requirements and the relevant code of practices. I cannot stress that enough. These tilt panels are dangerous. They are, even if you're wearing helmets and love the safety cages, they'll just destroy them. Like I said, some of these panels are 1.1 ton. You drop that onto a forklift, even if you have got a cage, there's not much of the forklift left over. I feel really sad for this family. A fine of $150,000 is tiny compared to a company like Grand Designs. I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm a little bit disappointed that the fine was as small as it is. Condolences to the family, but God, this is poor. This is really, really, really poor. This to me is saying that the kid's life was only worth $150,000. That's bad. That's really bad. Sorry, Bunbury Magistrate Court. I think you actually, that's a thought. Did they only fine them that much due to the fact that's what the legislation says? Interesting. I wonder if the legislation needs to be really, really changed, or has it already been changed? That's the question. So yeah, Grand Designs, I'd be questioning, but in their defence, they didn't try to say, no, it wasn't our fault, it was the subcontractors we were using. They just went, yep, we stuffed up, caused a death, fine us or whatever. So they've worn it on the chin. They pleaded guilty, they didn't fight it. I was about to rip into Grand Designs, but yeah, don't know. Well, at least WorkSafe actually does half decent press releases. But yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's go have a look at another one that came through. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. So we've got one here from the Deputy Prime Minister, Mark McCormack, and the WA Transport Minister, Rita Saffioti. So I'm just going to pull this one up now. That's the one I wanted. Alright, let's just bring this one over. And alright, so Honourable Michael McCormack, MP, Deputy Prime Minister, and Honourable Marissa Price is on this one as well. Quite a few people are on this one. Media release. Second stage of Great Northern Highway upgrades underway. Second stage of upgrades to the Great Northern Highway of Ord River in the Kimberley regions are now underway. How much does this one cost? The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development, Michael McCormack, said that the Australian government was committed to investing in regional Australia. I wonder if the same person writes all these things. We are committed, we are committed, we are committed. This important regional project is part of the Australian government's commitment to a better the Australian government commitment to better connect our regions, improve safety on our roads and improve freight productivity, the Deputy Prime Minister said. The Great Northern Highway is an important route for the local community and tourists, as well as the mining sector and other export industries that access the port of Wyndham. Upgrading the Ord River section of the Great Northern Highway between Halls Creek and Victoria Highway turnoff is vital, as it is a key part of Western Australian high wide load corridor and provides access to remote communities surrounding mining and pastoral leases and the port of Wyndham. This is what the Australian government's $110 billion investment pipeline is all about, getting Australians home sooner and safer while boosting local economies as we bounce back from COVID-19 pandemic. Now, one of the things, this is probably needed, but one of the things I'd really, really like to see, and if the government was really serious about reducing road fatalities, I've done a lot of country driving in my time, driving backwards and forwards from Geraldton to Perth, Perth to Albany and whatnot. I would have to say a lot of, not all, but a lot of fatalities on the roads are caused purely by people's impatience, frustration. So let's say you're in a car that can easily do 160 k's an hour. You're doing the speed limit out 110, and then you come up behind truck after truck after truck doing 80 kilometers an hour downhill, 60 kilometers an hour uphill, sometimes even less, and there's no safe place for you to overtake them. Now, most people are going, oh, just be patient and wait your turn. Right? But that means turning a 4.5 hour drive into potentially a 6, 7, 8 hour drive. Especially when things like long weekends, public holidays, Christmas, Easter, where the road fatalities are really, really high. I find a lot of people make really stupid decisions because they get impatient, overtaking on double white lines, overtaking 3 or 4 trucks in a time, so you're spending a good 30 seconds, 40 seconds in the wrong lane, overtaking cars doing 160, 170 k's an hour. I would love to see on all the major national routes, and this is going to cost an absolute insane amount of money, so I would love to see all national routes, like National Route 1 and all the other major trucking freight links, all to be dual carriage all around Australia. So from Perth to Geraldton, the Brand Highway, the Great Northern Highway, the South West Coastal Highway, all of these roads should be dual lane both ways. What happens, the trucks can sit in the left-hand lane, they can do, the 40 to 80 k's an hour, whatever they want to do. The caravans can safely overtake them. The grey nomads can go around and do what they need to do. They can travel whenever they want. But the people who are in normal cars can easily overtake. It won't interfere with their travels. You're not going to get 1.2 kilometre length overtaking lanes where trucks are absolutely struggling at their max to overtake another truck, and they're still only doing 60 k's an hour. So there's so much that can be done in the initial planning of these routes. Should have been looked at. We don't have cars that do 110 and trucks that can only do 40 k's an hour. On top of that, let's say you do have a wide load truck coming through that's it's a lane and a half. That still means that you're not going to be affecting the lanes coming the other way as well, because you can take up the 2 lanes on the left side while the car's coming towards you. They're fine. They're not going to be impaired in any way. So you're not going to be affecting the freight coming back the other way. You're not going to be affecting traffic. It just makes things so much easier. And because you're taking a lot of the stress out of the drive, you're taking a lot of the frustration out of the drive, a lot of really, really poor decisions will not be getting made. And so therefore there's more like, I think that's a really true way that you're going to be able to reduce road fatalities in a meaningful way. And on the flip side, you're also going to make transport a lot more efficient. So the trucking side of things will become more efficient as well. Again, to turn all those roads to dual carriage is going to cost an insane amount of money. But just have a look at the jobs it will create. Yay! Anyway, Western Australian Transport Minister Rita Saffioti said improving the safety of regional roads was a top priority for the McGowan government. There you go. Listen to this video. Free policy for you. Phase 2 of the Great Northern Highway upgrade will improve safety for this key network while also providing unique employment and training opportunities, Minister Saffioti said. Our government has a strong focus on improving road safety, which we are continuing to deliver through the regional road safety programs with the Commonwealth. We had a strong focus on Aboriginal employment and training opportunities in Phase 1 and look forward to continuing to build on these opportunities throughout Phase 2. Now, I am going to call you on this one, Minister Saffioti. She has just labelled a people, and I am dead against any form of discrimination, and I'm sorry, but you're a bigot. What's the full name? The Honourable Rita Saffioti. I am going to say it here, clear and day. You are a bigot. If you are focusing on a single race of people or a group within the community to the exclusion of all others, you are discriminating against anyone else. This shouldn't be about prioritising the Aboriginal communities above everyone else. It should be, do you need help getting training? Do you need help getting a job? There's a lot of people out there, not just Aboriginals. Like, don't get me wrong, in a lot of these Aboriginal communities, there's just no opportunities there. But the things that a lot of people don't understand is some of these communities, there's also white people there, there's also Asian people there, there's also African people there. Why are you excluding those people from these training programs? That's called bigotry. So Rita, stop it. Stop labelling people. Make things fair for everyone. If you need a job, I'll help you with training. If you need help with your health, we will help you on that side of things. Stop labelling people as saying, oh, because you're this group of people, we're going to give you preferential treatment. That's bigotry. Stop it. Okay, moving on. Federal member for Durack, Melissa Price, said, so for people who don't know, the seat of Durack pretty much covers all of the northern WA. My understanding is the second largest electorate in the world. There's one in Canada that covers all of the North Pole. That's actually bigger. So huge area. I do not envy Melissa Price for her job she's got. Massive area to cover. Federal member for Durack, Melissa Price, said previous network assessments carried out in the Kimberley region identified this section of the Great Northern Highway as substandard given its narrow road width and excessive edge wear. Really dangerous, especially if you're in a truck and you hit one of those soft edges, straight over. The current road condition meant opposing traffic needed to pass with minimal separation, forcing vehicles onto the unsealed road shoulder when passing, Ms. Price said. The road upgrades will further improve safety and efficiency for road users and continue to provide employment for local people and businesses. Exactly! Don't discriminate against people purely because of their skin colour. Just make it available for everyone. You need help, get help. Alright, you failed. Aboriginal engagement and participation was a major focus during Phase 1, with the project team working closely with the local community of Warman, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, to create job opportunities and provide a culturally sensitive work environment. Now, I don't mind being culturally sensitive, especially a lot of those areas. They were here first. The Aboriginal communities were here first, so we have to admit that. There's a lot of these sites that aren't actual genuine sacred sites. It's like you wouldn't bulldoze down a church or a mosque just because you want to build a road. You'd actually go, right, okay, so we need this road. How do we deal with it? And you'd work with the community. So being culturally sensitive, I've got no problems with that. Talk to the local community and say, right, this is what our plan is. Is this going to cause problems? How do we work with the local communities in that side of things? But when you start giving jobs purely to a group within the community because of their skin colour, that's discrimination. So, I really don't like that. It's just bad. So please stop labelling people and making policies around something that they've got no control over. Instead, do your policies around what's actually needed within the community as a whole, because that by continuing to label people like this, you're going to continue to create these divides, and you're going to continue to have these aggression and angst and potentially riots like what we had in America purely around race. And so it needs to be addressed. If police, and I'm going to use the American one for example, if police are killing people without just cause, and it's happening in Australia here, don't be fooled. Lee Tong got shot in bed while he was eating noodles purely because in my opinion, the cop overreacted. I've read the reports and spoken to some of his family members. He was literally just eating noodles. The police wanted to question him over something, pulled his gun, opened the door, shot him 3 times. Now, to me, that's murder. So I'd love to see what's on the body cam. Anyway, I am proud Phase 2 will continue to provide training grounds for many Aboriginal workers to ensure the road construction industry and develop skills and experience. So I love the fact that the Aboriginal people in the community are getting employment, but I don't like the fact that you're harping on about it. So a lot of the Aboriginal people I've spoken to, they just want to be treated like equally. They don't want to be they don't want to be not only discriminated against, but they don't want to be like unfairly discriminated for. So, and this is what, by focusing on the Aboriginal workers, you're doing. You're being a bigot. I'm sorry, but you are. WA member for the Kimberley Division, Davina Dian, I think that's how you pronounce it, said there were a number of road projects underway across the Kimberley supporting local jobs. Fantastic, great, support everyone in the local community. This project has a strong focus on Aboriginal engagement and training, providing a pathway for workers onto other road projects. Again, you're discriminating. You're focusing on the Aboriginal people in the exclusion of all others. If someone comes up and they want employment and they want training, just give it to them. Like, help them get the training. Help them help themselves. Yeah, discrimination all the way. Okay, I'm excited to be part of the McGowan government that is prioritising local jobs for local workers, and I'm pleased to see the road being made safer for the people of the East Kimberley as well as visitors. See, that is a perfect statement right there. There's no discrimination. You're helping local communities. You're helping local jobs. If you live in the local area and you need a job, go for it. Get the job. Get yourself sorted. Well done. Here we go. Phase 2 of the Great Northern Highway upgrade Ord River Northern Project includes the realignment of 11 kilometres of highway and will be delivered by WBHO Infrastructure Pty Limited. Phase 1 works, which included reconstructing 8 kilometres of the Great Northern Highway between the Ord River and Tikalara Creek. Tikalara Creek were completed last year. The $43.5 million Phase 2 project is jointly funded with the Australian Government committing $34.6 million, Western Australian Government committing $8.9 million. Fantastic. So I love seeing roadworks. I love seeing education programs being put into place. This is training our Australian and West Australian people to be able to be self-sufficient. Fantastic. Only thing I don't like about this, you had too much focus on a single group within the community. These opportunities should be open to everyone, regardless of who you are. Same as schooling, education, medical treatment, all of that should be open to everyone. Treating someone differently because of the colour of their skin is called racism, and that's what you're doing in this. So, yeah, a little bit disappointed by that one. Alright, let's have a look what else is coming through. I don't know why we've got 3 from the Water Minister in quick succession. Let's go to fisheries. Let's do the fisheries one, and then after that what we'll do, we will go and have a look at the video that my Patreon wanted to send me. So Word document is there. We want to get rid of this one. Okay, so this is a statement from Don Punch, MLA Ministry for Fisheries. So for those who don't know, the Ministry of the fishing industry in WA contributes a lot of money to our economy. It is actually a very, very, very important part of it, to the point where I kind of wish there was more of a focus on it. And Row 8 is unfortunately one of those things that, not Row 8, the Kwinana Outer Harbour causes a lot of damage to our fishing industry, so that's why I'm very, very anti the Kwinana Outer Harbour. Alright, so let's get this going. Boost for white shark tagging and monitoring and expanded mitigation programs. The McGowan government commits a further $5 million for shark hazard mitigation, increasing funding for highly effective targeted shark tagging and upgrades to shark monitoring networks. Support for beach enclosures and continuation of personal shark deterrent rebate scheme. Smart drumline trial ends on May 20th with the use of smart drumlines to be discontinued following advice from the Chief Scientist of Western Australia. My understanding with drumlines, they go take a big drum and they throw it in the ocean, and there's a buoy on the top and there's a rope and then there's a whole heap of hooks with bait on it, and they catch the sharks, pull them away and then release them. Sort of like a catch and release. When I used to go fishing, that's what they were doing with them. But these are smart drum lines, so they might just have sharks are really sensitive to electronic pulses, so they might be putting an electronic pulse on the same thing, drum, rope, buoy on the top, and it just goes bing, 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 bing to deter the sharks from coming in. But if the Chief Scientist of Western Australia is saying that they don't work, and they're actually doing reports and studies and having a look at it, then probably not. Don't use it, waste of money. Other thing is, like, how many shark attacks do we have a year versus how much money are we spending on it? That's something I'd like to see. The McGowan government today announced $5 million towards a number of shark hazard mitigation methods to help keep West Australians safe in the ocean. This 4-year commitment will enhance the state's world-leading evidence-based shark hazard mitigation program, which boasts comprehensive measures to help ocean users make informed decisions about their own safety. I love the fact that it's evidence-based. Labor's had a history of, I call them knee-jerk reactions. A lot of people will remember the live export ban to Indonesia. That was federal government though. So what happened is a video came out of sheep being extremely poorly managed in a ship to send them over to Indonesia. Rather than investigating, A, was the video real, B, where did it come from, who shot it, what country was it in, and what the shipping company that was involved in doing a proper investigation and using evidence-based information to make a decision, they go, oh, that's bad, we're killing sheep, let's ban all live export. And what happened, a lot of the farmers were ready to export their sheep, so they were already in holding pens at the wharf. And it was cheaper for them to terminate all those animals on the wharf than to bring them back to the farm. The government gave no assistance, no help whatsoever, and just absolutely crippled the farming industry overnight. So again, poor policy with poor information. So that's why I really like the fact that this is evidence-based decision on the mitigation program. So yeah, let's continue. An additional $2.8 million will be provided to upgrade the shark monitoring network and extend the highly effective targeted white shark tagging program. Building on the success of recent operations which have seen 51 white sharks captured and released since 2019. So I'm thinking these drum lines are actually hooks in the mouth. You're catching the shark and then you're releasing them later. Yeah. Don't know. Yeah. I don't. My gut tells me I don't like this. I don't think, because the ocean is not our domain. The ocean is the domain of fish, sharks, whales, dolphins, penguins, and all that sort of stuff. The amount of shark attacks is extremely minimal. A lot of the shark attacks are curiosity from the sharks. They're hungry. They see us swimming. We're an easy feed. I'd like to have a look at the overfishing in the Western Australian waters. I think that'd be a very, very interesting report to see the actual fish levels in the wild. Don't even know if there is a report, but to be relocating sharks, like they travel insane amounts of distance, like from South Africa all the way over to WA and all these other places. So especially the great whites, the white sharks or whatever you want to call them now, because we can't say white anymore. So even if you do catch one and you move it, it's just going to come back. So spending $2.8 million to relocate 51 sharks, I'd be questioning whether it's worth it. The package will also enable the state government to increase its investment in further successful initiatives to enhance public safety, including upgrades to expand the detection range of WA's tagged shark monitoring receivers. See, I think monitoring the sharks and just letting them be there, do their own thing, is a lot better option. So imagine you use that $2.8 million to put these tracking devices on 200 great white sharks and you just monitored where they were. I think that would be a lot better use of the money rather than just relocating a shark, which is just going to swim back again anyway. The support for beach enclosures at popular beaches, and continuing to the rebate scheme for personal shark deterrent devices for surfers and divers. Now, these things work a treat. I think they should be just a default sort of thing. If you're going surfing or diving, you need to have one of these things. It's like if you're going out boating, you have to have an emergency beacon. If you're going out surfing or diving, and they're tiny, they're small, they just go on your leg rope or around your ankle. I think this is one of those things that you must have. The funding adds to existing support for surf lifesaving WA beach and aerial patrols, jet skis and drones for surfing WA event patrols. The Shark Shark Smart WO website and app, which has more than 60,000 users, and the rollout of beach emergency number signs to improve emergency response times. And one of the things I'd actually like to see as well is when you do swimming lessons at schools, I'd love to see emergency responses taught during swimming lessons while the kids are at school. So it's something everyone knows. And also with a lot of tourists, when they come over to Australia, because we've got some of the most amazing beaches in the world, they need to be told, hey, if you see this number up, get the hell out of the water. And so they understand what's going on with that. Okay, the use of smart drumline technology, which captured 2 white sharks in the fixed 2-year scientific trial out in Greysound, will not be continued. I'm actually kind of glad with that. If the drumlines are what I'm thinking they are, then that's awesome. I'm really grateful they're not continuing with that. An independent review by Chief Scientist of Western Australia, Professor Peter Kilkin, has concluded smart drumline technology is not effective at catching white sharks and provides no demonstrable value in reducing the potential risk posed by white sharks off the southwest coast. Professor Kilkin determined the trial itself was extremely well designed and implemented in a highly skillful manner. So it was a good trial and we got a good result out of it. So well done. On the recommendation of the Chief Scientist, the trial will conclude on its scheduled end date of May 2021, and additional investments will be made into the highly effective approach of tagging white sharks. Perfect. Absolutely excellent. So bang on. Great job there. Well done. Okay, so a message from the Fisheries Minister, Don Punch. WA's evidence-based approach to shark hazard mitigation has seen us implement one of the strongest mitigation programs in the world, ensuring people can continue to enjoy our beaches and oceans with confidence. While the risk of a shark attack is low, the $2.8 million upgrade to our shark monitoring network and funding for increasing tagging will ensure we're better informed than ever on the movement and whereabouts of white sharks. It probably wouldn't be worth adding bull sharks to this list as well, and tiger sharks, because they can be mongrels. The 2-year smart drumline trial was conducted to the highest standard and served its purpose in generating data to enable the chief scientist to assess the effectiveness of the program in reducing the potential risk posed by white sharks. The state government tagging program has seen 51 white sharks captured since 2019, compared to only 2 captured during the smart drumline trial. Thanks to the hard work of all involved in the trial, we now have scientific evidence establishing smart drumlines are not effective at catching or reducing the potential risk posed by white sharks, and funding can be redirected to expand demonstratively effective shark mitigation initiatives to keep ocean users as safe as possible, which is awesome. So you know what? So far, this is by far the best one I've read so far. I'm really happy. I think Don Punch is doing a stellar job. He'd be Labor, eh? Wow, I'm giving a compliment to Labor. Hey, credit where credit's due. All right, so there's a few more there. I'll have a quick read through them as well. But what I did want to do, where are you? I did want to have a look at this video. So it's titled "South African Criminals Shoot Armoured Car But the Driver Isn't Deterred." Wow, holy crap. Alright, let's have a look at this. There it is. Let's move this to there. Alright. How's the volume on it? Oh, whoops, wrong one. Over here. I wonder if he's noticed that's... Ooh. Holy crap. Look at that. Boom, another shot. You can see people on the side of the road having pot shots at him. Boom. Look, this guy is panicking. I wonder if he was on two wheels then. They're still getting shot. Look, this guy is, wow, he's breathing hard. Did that just get hit again? Yeah, they're still shooting him. Yes, so I'm going to jump back a bit. So just have a look out this guy's window. There, they're still shooting. Look, another bullet. Wow. Alright, so they're now calling for help. Good thing he's not in Australia because he would have copped a $500 fine for that, touching his phone whilst driving. If I was a judge, I'd let him off. Oof. What do they just drive over? They're stuck on something. He's getting out. Holy crap, I wouldn't be getting out. Damn. Yeah, no, I'm so glad I don't live in South Africa. Wow, damn. Oh, hang on, that's my Twitch. There we go. Wow. Wow. So the question was, my thoughts on the video. That guy has nerves of steel. That's blown me away. I counted at least 30-40 shots there. So if any of those shots got through the armor or the bulletproof glass, you're dead. That's your life's done and dusted. The question he sent through for me was that he wanted to talk about was, do I see Australia degrading to a level of South Africa? Especially in rounds, things like that apartheid and what's happening currently with a lot of Caucasian farmers being removed off their land. I don't think we will. I think we've got a lot more stable heads in Australia. I find our population, especially with Australians, we're more inclined to actually think for ourselves. We have amazing access to information. If people want to educate themselves, they can. A couple of my friends are South African, and they're saying the education levels is pretty bad over there. So the problem with, especially with bad education, and we'll take these off, what happens is people don't understand the concepts, and so what happens is, and this is one of the reasons why freedom of speech is really, really important to prevent things like this video, this video that just came up. So let's say you've got someone with a really, really, really radical idea. Let's say he's a flat earther and he believes the earth is flat. And so because, let's say, for example, we don't start talking to him about his theory about the earth being flat, and we don't discuss different experiments that you can do to prove that the earth isn't flat and all this sort of stuff. So what happens is, let's say we turn around and say, no, you're not allowed to talk about that. The earth is round. You can't say it's flat. You're crazy. You're not allowed to say that. You keep going. We're not going to throw you in jail. So what happens is he hasn't been shown, hey, the Earth isn't flat because of this reason, and been given the evidence base, and he hasn't been able to find out for himself and actually educate himself. So what happens is he all of a sudden one day he meets someone else who also believes that the Earth is flat, and they both can't publicly say it. So what happens? They form these little underground groups, and they start talking to each other. Yeah, oh yeah, the Earth's flat. The Earth's really, really flat. Oh, this is a big conspiracy theory. The government's lying to us. NASA's just in a Hollywood basement, and they all lied to us. And so what happens is this one idea, I think the Earth is flat, that could have been proven wrong and could have educated himself properly, all of a sudden becomes an underground thing. These people start talking to themselves, and it becomes more and more extreme because they're in a bubble chamber and they're not discussing counter ideas. So they're not getting that education to educate themselves on it. And so this is one of the examples where it's really, really important. So what's happened is, again, over in South Africa, I suspect that the economy's gone to a point where it's really, really bad. It's better off for them to be extremely violent and criminal and just steal whatever they need, rather than going out, educating themselves, getting a job. And that would also explain why there's such a large amount of people from South Africa trying to get out of South Africa, because things like this crime is extremely bad. So going back to the original point is, do I think there's a chance of this happening in Australia? Not in my lifetime. I don't think we will see this in my lifetime. Will there be political consequences to things like this in Australia? Again, as long as the ability to talk about different ideas and different opinions are supported and allowed, and people can express their opinions, I think that's a good thing. I think when people start turning around saying, no, you're not allowed to say that, is bad, because all of a sudden you've got good speech and bad speech. So you've got this divide. But the question is, who says what's good speech and who says what's bad speech? So a prime example of that is during one of the world wars, turning around saying what the Nazis were doing was bad was considered hate speech. So by not being able to openly discuss what's going on, they were able to take over the whole entire country, and we all know what happened to the Jewish people after that point. So mass genocide, mass murder, the impact and the loss of life to the world was massively bad. So do I think it will get to that point? No, I don't. And this is also another reason why I'm very, very pro-free speech, but I'm very anti-discrimination of any sort, both ways. So prime example, people go, oh, what about the Black Lives Matter protests? So let's use that for example. Should they have been allowed during the COVID-19, the lockdowns? Should the Western Australian Black Lives Matter protests, the Sydney one and all that, should they have been allowed? Yes, I think they should have been. I think the lockdowns were kind of stupid. I understand there was a reason for it. They were too long, too severe, and they were put in place on places that weren't affected by COVID at the same time. I think the government's handling of COVID-19 state emergency was extremely sloppy, and they need to be called to account, and that's not going to happen. I can see us being in a state emergency for another 4 years for the risk of COVID coming back or some other virus. Martin McGowan's already spoken about extending the border lockdowns to preserve the borders against drugs, weapon and crime, which has nothing to do with the state of emergency. So Mark McGowan, stop the state of emergency. It needs to end. Well, it's not even Mark McGowan, it's Roger Cook, and it was Fran Logan, but I think it's Reece Whitby now is the emergency management minister. So free speech is really important. Do I think the people who attended the Black Lives Matter protests are ignorant and all that sort of stuff? No, they feel that there's a problem, so they should be able to say, hey, I think there's a problem here, we need to discuss it. And the way you do that is, first you hit up your ministers and your members of parliament. If they don't do anything, then protest. That's how you get your message out there. So I think they should have been allowed to have their protest. I think we should have been more supportive of the protest. Now, do I think they're misguided, misinformed? Yes, I do. Per capita, the number of deaths in custody, Caucasians versus Aboriginals, the percentages are extremely similar. There's not much difference in it. I personally feel that every single death in custody should be investigated. Was it natural causes? Was it caused by police misconduct? Was it caused by other external factors? And each one should be treated as its own individual case. Same as police shootings. there was a police shooting up in Geraldton. My understanding is there was a Indigenous person trying to stab a police officer, so another police officer shot the person. Unfortunately, the Aboriginal person died, and there was a full inquiry into that one, and the police officer that shot the person was actually charged for manslaughter. Going back to the Lee Tong. Lee Tong was a person of interest to the West Australian Police. They went to question him, opened the door, took a step in, shot him 3 times in the chest and killed him. Okay. There was no coroner's report that I'm aware of. I'm still waiting response to see if there was one done. So there was a police investigation. They said the officer did no wrong, but there was no coroner's report. So there needs to be a coroner's report on every police shooting, just to maintain the trust in the West Australian Police and police in general. So going back to this video again, do I see Australia becoming that way? No, I don't. Fascinating video though. Like that guy, the one on my screen, he was on the left, the driver. Holy damn, he is someone you want in an emergency. That guy was calm. He was, well, I don't know about calm, but he was very collected. He assessed the risk. He was just phenomenal. So well done to him, keeping his mind. Yeah, oh wow, I was blown away by that. And the amount of damage that those guns did to that glass and that, they were high caliber weapons by the looks of it. So yeah, wow, yeah. It was good. I enjoyed it. So anyway, on that one, I'm going to wrap up this video. So I hope you liked it. Remember, that video came from one of my Patreons who wanted me to have a look at it, a bit of reaction to it. So that's the first time I actually watched the full video. So if you do want to do that, make sure you jump over onto my Patreon account. The link's in my Twitch. Also, please, I think they do follows on Twitch. So follow this. I need to get like 50 followers and subscribers on it. So make sure you go have a look. And yeah, and if you can hear that noise, that's my alarm to go get the kids from school. So anyway, guys, have a great day. This has been Travis Carter for Carter's Corner Daily. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk soon.